So today we are going to look at probably the most important tool that a magician can have in their arsenal, and that is the force. Okay?
Da,
So
da, da.
I wish I had my sound effects. The force. So the thing is that, you know, everybody knows a force or two, but do you really know all the forces you need to know? Well, no, you don't, because what we're going to look at is footage today where, and we're just talking about card forces, right, Alex, today?
That's exactly
right. These are just card forces. Yeah. But the reality, what you were telling me earlier is what?
Oh, you can force anything. You can force objects, you can force words, you can, you know, there's a plethora of things that you can force, but, you know, we can't just say we're going to talk about forces because that's a whole universe of things. So today we're just really focusing on cards specifically, and specifically within that genre, the best of the card forces we're going to look at today, because there's so many of those. You can't, you know, there's not enough time to cover them all here. We had to sort of just pick the all-stars and go with those.
Exactly. All right. Well,
the first clip, I think, Adam, that we were going to show is a super cool thing, and probably best just to watch it if we can before we talk about its innards. Are we a few minutes from there, Adam, or are we closer than that?
No, we're good. We can do it right now. You ready? Here we go. Check this out, guys. Can you see it?
Not yet.
Can you see it, everybody?
There it is. We got it.
You started.
We got it.
There it is.
Okay. All right. Here it is.
That went well. Let's do another one. Okay. Otherwise, I'd just run off and bring Colin up. But I'll try another one since you seem to be into this stuff. Does anybody shuffle cards? Does anybody know their way around a deck of cards?
I love this.
Shuffle?
There it is.
Yeah. Okay. Come on up here. Give him a round of applause. Thank you, sir. This is a deck of, we call these seconds. See how it says seconds? Shuffle them up. Make sure it's a real deck. At the Shaftesbury Theater, I destroy a deck of cards every night. We're doing over 80 performances in the 2 months we're here, and I said, I'm not bringing 80 decks of cards in my luggage. Go buy some from the local store. So they went and they bought the cheapest. They're called seconds, and the printer, there might be a little, ink problems, or there might be something like that. That's why they're called seconds. It doesn't look like a regular deck of cards, but it is a regular deck of cards. They just have some irregular. I don't even know why I'm pointing that out. It's not important to the trick. Tell me your name.
Jan. Jan.
Jan.
Yes.
Jan. Oh, I like that. Take any card you like, Jan. This one. You sure? I was hoping you'd go for the one next to it. All right. Well, we'll do a different trick, Jan. Don't let me see it. Don't let me see it. Oh. Jan's juggling show. Hey. Did you get it?
Yes.
Show it to everybody. Oh, you can even show it to the camera. I will hide my eyes here in the blackout curtain. Can everybody see it? Okay, hide it, Jan. Here I come. Face down. Place it back in the pack. Now, let me just show everybody. They're all shuffled up. It's a normal deck. You put it back in the pack anywhere you like, Jan.
Oh, he's counting.
27. Okay. Now, Jan, your card is shuffled into the deck. I like Jan's body position there. He's all close in there. Never know what to do with their hands. Okay, Jan, here's what I'm going to do. Do you remember your card?
Yes.
When I snap my fingers, your card will jump from the center of the pack, believe it or not, fly through the air, and I'll catch it in my other hand. Are you ready for this, Jan? I don't know. Okay, me too. Here we go. 14 years of my life to learn that crap. Jan, what was your card?
Spades 2.
Spades 2? Is that right?
Sorry.
Controversy.
Language problem here.
Oh.
Diamond.
Diamond.
Diamond 2.
Diamond 2. And it's changed into the 3 of clubs. That's called magic where I come from, Jan. Was it really the spade 2, or was it the diamond 3, or what was it? Anybody? It really was the 2 of diamonds.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to have Colin come up here. This is not going well. Oh, there it is, right where you left it. 27 from the top. No wonder it didn't find it. Okay. Well, this happens. That's called live theater at the Shaftesbury. It's more rehearsed. I'm trying stuff I've never tried. Do me a favor. Put your hand on top of the torn pieces of 3 o'clock. We're going to try this. It doesn't always work, but we're going to try this. We're going to take your diamond 2 and stick it under your hand. I'm going to say the magic words. Hope to heck it works. The card that was once torn, Jan.
It's
3 of clubs.
great.
Ooh, chill. Just went up my... What could possibly be under your hand? Turn the pieces over and show the people that you do, in fact, have the Diamond 2, ladies and gentlemen. There it is. Thank you, Jan. Hold the pieces. Make a fist. Squeeze tight. Hold your hand high in the air. Do you believe in the healing powers?
Yes.
Not much. No. Where I come from, you have to have more conviction. Say, I believe. Repeat after me. I will never.
I will never
Say what other.
say what other
People tell me to say.
people tell me to say.
Okay. I'm going to blow on your hand with my laser breath. Ooh, cool watch. Open your hand. Have those pieces indeed feel the healing powers of Jan. He will blow on your foreheads later and make all the wrinkles disappear. There it is. Give it up for Jan. Jan, you're awesome. Thank you so much. Wait a minute. Go like this. Blow on your hand. Press on the card and say this word. Psst. Like a steam press. Lift up your hand. Those wrinkles, verify that, Jan, are gone. That is steam pressed, as good as new. There it is. Give it up for Jan one more time. Thank you, sir. You can have that deck of cards.
Amazing. Is there more, Alex?
That's it.
No, that's that.
Is there more, Alex?
No, that's
Okay.
it. Made it.
That's
the
killer.
first trick I ever saw him do when I was 15 years old. First card trick at a lecture. Just it still takes us right back, right? He's one of the best magicians in the universe.
It's one of the best card tricks that there is too, right? I mean, it's tough to beat that trick. There's so much going on there. It's so good, and it all just relies on that one single. Well, there's a force, and then there's the changes, right?
The other thing.
The other things.
Yeah. But I just
Light of
love
day.
him so much. He's so in the moment, right? He's just right there in the moment. Whatever happens, he's just bringing it in, and it's like a rolling improv. He's just so great. But he knows what he's going to do, you know? It's not
And
jazz.
he's as much a comedian as he is a magician too, right? I mean, he's got a pretty deep.
He's my favorite.
He's
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. Totally.
Mhm.
Yeah, I love
And
it.
there's so many elements to that trick. The important thing, our topic today is, right, we're talking about the idea of how magicians make people take the cards that they want them to take when they want them to take them. And there was an element of that inside that trick, but it's a very small part of that trick. There's a lot of other things going on in that trick. But if you come right down to the first part of the trick, David Williamson does a method which what's it called?
You're talking about the actual selection.
Yeah, I mean, it's like
He's doing the classic force.
and the classic force is one of the favorites because it really looks like what it is. But the problem is that when we try and learn how to do a classic force, it feels to us like a magic trick itself, because in effect, you're basically spreading the cards freely for a person and compelling them to take the one you want them to take without feeling that you have forced anything, right? And the truth about the classic force is it's an incredibly compelling force. It's probably the most single believable card force in the world, but for the most part, it's not 100% because it really is so much about compelling the audience to take the card you want them to take, right? He's got a wonderful aspect of that trick that allows it to work if they should happen to take a card, a different card. And I don't want to get into it here, but to watch David Williamson execute classic force, you can really see what it would look like if you could do it like a master, right?
Yep. And he's got the trick does have some things working for him in that classic force is a little bit more surefire than a normal classic force because of the nature of that specific effect and that there's more than one card that's in play. And and in different places at any given time within the trick. I don't want to give away David's trick, but you have a little bit more power behind your classic force in this trick than you normally do.
And if you take a look at David's performance style, you can see that David Williamson is the kind of guy who would think nothing of taking a card you picked and deciding he hated it and tossing it aside and making a joke and having everyone laugh. The age-old instruction is, if you miss your classic force, do a different trick, right? Which for many close-up workers, that's totally possible. David Williamson's on stage. He's a master classic forcer. The trick is designed to make it all but impossible to miss. But really, for most of us, lots of the times, we need a force that is totally surefire and feels as good as the classic force feels when it goes perfectly, right? So fortunately for you all, there are a lot of other methods, right? A lot of other ways to do the force, which if you pick them for the right time and the right moment, are probably in many cases even more ideal than the classic force, depending on what you're doing and where you're doing it. Many of them don't require a person to reach in and grab a card, which, you know, in these socially distanced days is not quite as easy a sell as it used to be, and so on and so forth, right? So the idea here, Alex, was just to sort of set us off with a baseline, right? See a wonderful piece of magic by one of the world's greatest magicians, and then take a look at some other different approaches.
This is sort of the holy grail, right? The classic force is like the holy grail, and most of the other forces that are the actual pick a card type forces sort of mimic that, right? In their style, in the way that they're presented, they sort of look like what a classic force looks like and gives you that same sort of feeling, especially the feeling of freedom, so that the force doesn't work if you don't feel like you really picked the card, right? So that needs to be built into any of the procedures. So but that's definitely the holy grail in my opinion, is the classic.
You know, Aaron said something really important, which is it's good enough to know a force, like one force, right? But you need a bunch of different ones for different situations. You know, and the classic force is awesome, but it's not always the right choice. Wouldn't you agree?
Right. It totally is not always the right choice. And in fact, when you're first starting Magic, it just is like an elusive thing on the horizon that you hope you make it to, you know? So it's, you know, I remember in the beginning of Magic, this was one of the first tricks I saw in the beginning of Magic. And it was like, I want to do that trick, but I can't do that trick because I couldn't do that force. And I had to, you know, I had workarounds, and I still played with that trick, but with different forces. But it was because that's what my skill set allowed for at the time, you know? But you know, it doesn't matter. I mean, the reality is that there's so many tools. And if you are a magician, if you're performing on a regular basis, I think without even really trying, within a couple of years, you have a little toolbox full of forces, right? Just because it's the nature of doing magic. You just bump into a lot of techniques. And I think that's part of the beginning magician attitude too, is you're sort of a collector in the beginning, right? You're just collecting methods, you're collecting effects,
right,
ideas, and trying to find out where you fit in with all those ideas and all those concepts, so that you can see how you can make your way into being a magician, right? It's a process, it's a way.
For me, I remember for the first couple of years, I was collecting them, but really I was just trying to find one that I could get away with. Like I would try everything, and I would only be able to like sort of, you know, half the stuff I was reading, I couldn't even understand how it was meant to work. The other half the stuff I could understand in theory, but I didn't necessarily believe it could work. And, you know, another half of that, I would do it for people and they just wouldn't buy it. So when it came right down to it, you know, I was using the backslip in school for years. Right? I'm sorry, my cards are all over the place. But we talk about it a lot. The backslip is one that most of us tend to discard after we learn a few other ones. But that backslip got me through an awful lot of trouble when I was in high school. I mean, because, you know, you're reading all this crazy card magic, you're learning all this wonderful card magic, you can't do nothing. And you do then exactly what professionals on TV do to this day. You do what? You force and reveal. So this David Williamson trick we saw is a pretty elaborate use of a force card, right? Like we were just watching Penn and Teller the other day. Penn and Teller go on national TV, find some gigantic deck of cards, or a deck of cards in a hot air balloon, or a deck of cards under the sea, and force and reveal.
Yep. Right.
As soon as humanly possible. Crazy force, reveal. You know, the very first trick I ever learned, Penn and Teller were on TV, and they gave us a little clip of Penn Jillette, dressed as a news anchor, doing the end of a little bit of a news reading. And in other news, your card was the 3 of clubs. And they taught us how to do a card force, and they said, we're going to teach you how to do the best trick ever, because they knew. They gave us everything. They gave us all the news you need, which is that if you can do a force and reveal, you can be cool like Penn and Teller. I know they made at least one lifelong magician that way. Right?
And the idea was that you were supposed to put this tape on in the background while your friends were there, right? And it just looked like a news broadcast. So, and then it would cue you when to start the trick. And say, hey, you guys are in my living room. Let me show you a trick. And then you do it, and then it would time, and by the time the reveal came, the news anchor would say, oh, and your card is the 3 of clubs.
It's even better than that, Adam. It's even better than that, because you do the trick and you fail, right? They teach you how to do it.
I thought,
put the tape in later, right? So you have the tape set up and you go, man, and you give them the wrong card. It's the King of Hearts, and it's supposed to be 3 of clubs. Wasn't the King of Hearts? I can't believe this. I read this book. I can't believe. Let's just watch TV. And you put on like the end of the news comes on, and then Penn Jillette comes up, and you're like, man, I can't believe that trick didn't work. Just totally like dragging your feet. Like, man, I practiced and everything. And then all of a sudden he goes, oh, and by the way, was this your card?
So great.
You know, if you guys, CC members, if you're watching right now, you know, we have training. We have the best training inside Conjure community for forces. We've got a great show in there called Use the Force that you should check out. It's a fantastic exploration into all our favorite forces.
I think we put 3 or 4 or 5 on there, but you know, like for years ago, like, you know, we started with like Animan wrote 101 forces, then he wrote 202 forces. And within the last couple of years, we decided as one of the team projects, you know, because we've got this incredible membership, we got our incredible team, we decided to just do what we do with everything and gang up and collectivize and let the hive work it out. And we established that there's basically a certain number of categories, right? There's basically types of forces. So what do we figure, guys? There are self-working forces, mechanical forces,
automatic,
totally automatic, the kind that you can put, often the spectators get to handle the cards completely, or at least partially, and the kind that Penn and Teller taught us all those years ago, right? Then there are, what would you say, sleight-of-hand forces.
Like cutting forces.
Right, and I feel like those are more or less in the mechanical variety, right? I mean, they're pretty self-working.
And then there's mechanical in the sense of gaffs, right? There are definitely all kinds of special assistants that help you make the forces happen that are totally innocent.
You need a little bit of help, a little something extra.
Yeah, then there's that advanced stuff too, like David Williams doing the classic force. I mean, that's going to take some time and practice.
Right, dribble force, things like that.
Dribble force, exactly,
involved.
Yeah, and basically, if there's a way that you can have a person pick a card. So think about the ways we have people pick cards. Pick cards that way. You can force cards that way, not just with the classic force, but with other forces. Have people pick cards this way. You can force cards a couple ways that way. We have people pick cards that way sometimes. We have people pick cards that way sometimes, right? And I don't know if I did that one that way, and or even just cutting, right? So no matter how you can handle the cards, you can have a card selected that way, and you can compel your audience to take one. Now, let's go ahead and watch our next clip and see if we can, just with that information alone, surmise what class of force is going to be used. And it's fun. I don't even know what's coming.
I don't know what's coming.
A 70-ton train car disappear.
Well, I've got to work up. But there is a piece of magic that I've always wanted to do on a train. Would you like to see it?
Of course.
It makes it a lot more interesting doing it on a moving train. I've got this deck of cards here. I'm going to give them a shuffle. I need you to select one of the cards, but before you do, there's something very, very important that we have got to do, and that's to take the cards out of the card box.
Hey, Adam, you want to rewind that? We don't have that on.
What's that?
We don't have that
There's
on.
no-
You should rewind it to the beginning.
We just got a black screen here.
There we
Oh,
go.
sorry, guys.
At the end, we saw it. At the end, we saw the screen come up.
Let me try one
mean-
more time.
After he turned it
Do you-
off, you mean?
There it is.
Do you see it now?
Ah, there.
Yeah, rewind
rewind
that
that.
thing to the beginning. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry about that.
Doing a train. Would you like to see it?
Of course.
It makes it a lot more interesting doing it on a moving train. I've got this deck of cards here. I'm going to give them a shuffle. I need you to select one of the cards, but before you do, there's something very, very important that we have got to do, and that's to take the cards out of the card box.
That's amazing.
Now, all these cards are different, right? Each and every card is a different card. What I need you to do is to select one of the cards, but I want to be very fair about it. Just take your finger and touch any card you like. It's your choice. That's the card?
Yes.
Keep your finger there. Good. Memorize that card.
Right.
Now, you could have selected any of these cards. I'm going to mark yours by tearing the corner off. And I want you to keep in full view the entire time. And I'm going to lose your card right in the center of the deck. I'm going to try to find your card in a very unique way by having it stick to the window. The card stuck to the window. Good, take it off.
I can't.
What's wrong?
But it's stuck to the other side.
Maybe I sprung the cards too hard. There. I want you to look. The corner matches.
That's amazing.
I mean, that's a crazy flat out miracle right there. That's, I mean, it's just a miracle, right?
It's a killer trick, right?
Yeah, totally.
Just totally unexplainable.
Those were the days, man. Those early
Ain't it?
Copperfield specials when he was doing stuff like that. Like,
You know
He's
what's
always-
funny about that though, Adam? I went back and I watched some of these early Copperfield specials, and it's like that one and maybe the one right before it. He's what we know as David Copperfield. Before that, he is not. He's like an alien, and he's like right on the edge of likable, right? It's not until he gets to like the 90s that he gets cool, man. It's
Yeah, I think there's a change there when he got a different executive producer.
Well, what year was this?
That's
thing
when the
we saw?
whole thing changes, and he's that modern Copperfield that you can relate to.
Yeah.
This is before. You're saying that this is the unrelatable David Copperfield or the super relatable?
No, this
David
is
Copperfield?
relatable now. No,
No,
it's
this is the relatable.
yeah, this is 91, and the year before is 90, and I think that's when he does the not Escape from Alcatraz, the one that's right after that. But it's right around that time when he starts to like
Niagara Falls.
it could be I think it's Niagara Falls. It's right about the time where he starts to look like he's a pop star instead of this guy with a suit and tie, right? It's when he starts to
Right.
look like he's like a musician. That's when it changed. He has longer hair. He seems cooler,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah,
Well,
Does-
even
that-
before
more
that,
impromptu. Also, everything he does seems more in the spur of the moment, even though it's probably obviously not.
But what about that force? Huh?
That's
Well,
that was a good one.
It's a good
Go
one.
ahead, Steve.
It was. It was this and
Yeah.
that.
Those are
that
right.
thing, right?
That is
Classic.
a great, easy, more or less. It's not mechanical, but it's one of the easier, surefire forces you can do from a spread. And watching David do it, you could really see right there. It's great. Works wonderfully. So wonderfully, you could use it for a torn and restored card. And as a little extra secret for anyone watching who wants to do it for a torn and restored card, you can do that with a stranger card. You guys know
I use that particular force on stage all the time because it's very easily motivated. If you come in, I don't know if you can see the deck, but like if you come in like this, right? I didn't even look at what the force is, but they touch one, then it's like you're showing, right? So it makes sense. It's like a totally motivated thing because you want to show everybody what the card is.
Exactly right.
I forgot what that one's called though. I want to say
Hofzinser.
Omaha. Is it a Hofzinser?
Hofzinser
They're all
spread
just
force.
variations of a Hofzinser spread
Yeah.
force. I mean, Hofzinser never did spread force, so I don't think. Maybe he did. But sometimes, Steve, when it's not on stage, I'll have them say stop, and then I'll just reach out like this and have them pick up the cards and hold and look at the card themselves.
Oh, that's nice.
And so it's just a highly
dastardly.
It's very, very, very reliable force, so once you discover that force and you start working with that force, you're not going to be so uptight about not being able to do the classic force for a little while yet. That's going to, for many of us, that would satisfy for a lifetime, right? It's that good.
That force that we just watched, I when I saw that, I went and found it. I think it's remember we were talking about it a while ago, the Encore 3. That's where I bumped into it, was in Encore 3. And it also has that other sequence where you shuffle the cards and then you take them out of the box. That's in Encore 3 as well. And I remember being enamored with that. And a slip force, I hated it. It was never my style. It never worked for me. That one ended up being what the slip force was, probably to most people. For me, was that Hofzinser spread force, just because to me, in my heart, that felt fair. It felt right. You can touch one, there's the card, I'm going to look away. It just feels fair and above board, And in the beginning, I needed things like that. I wasn't going to get away with a lot of the real sneaky stuff because, I wasn't, I was going to telegraph that I was doing sneaky stuff in the beginning. There was no way I could have pulled that off.
You see that, David, the shot began right here.
It's great.
So, it doesn't begin quite that way. You have to spread the cards, but
well,
David,
when you get to control every aspect of the presentation, why not?
Right, exactly. Might as well clean it up.
You're responsible not to, right?
That's right.
Good force.
And that's and the great trick. You know what I mean?
A great trick. That one made
sell
my
those
mind pop
curtains
out of my head,
with
man.
opening windows.
Yeah, me too, Alex. Me too. And remember, right after that, we had a whole slew of card through windows start to hit the market.
Yeah, there
Yeah,
were definitely
that was huge.
way overpriced versions and all kinds of weird sneaky versions and ones where you needed sneaky assistance and all kinds.
Right. Who can afford a train car though, right? I mean, that drives the price up on us all the time.
Well,
That's why Copperfield owns that trick, man.
What's so funny is that in my mind, I could just dream at night of Chris Kenner hanging off the side of a train car. David's like, "Get out there, Chris.
Get out there, Ken. You're the new guy."
John, the purpose of this conversation today is to take a look at some forces and talk about them, but we've got so much training on the member in your site that we can direct you to right now. Even Adam, where do we want to send John to go check out?
Yeah, John, you should just log into the Conjure Community site, and our biggest plan is a whole course called the Miracle Force Formula, and it's so big.
It's got 50 videos in it.
It must be. It's almost like the encyclopedia of card forces. It's going to cover every situation and circumstance. So you wanna use that one. And then there's a great show called Use the Force as well, where we cover some of our very favorite ones.
Yeah, if you watch the Use the Force, you'll see like basically the top of the top in terms of our super favorites. And then if you take a look at the Miracle Force Formula, we actually went through hundreds and hundreds of forces in all of our professional repertoires and literally picked the very best in every kind of force, the best mechanical forces, the best spreading forces, the best dribbling and riffling and the classic force. And then Alex put all of this stuff together, teaches a whole handful of easy to do revelations. So if you can force a card, you got as many different tricks as there are. One of the things to note, and this is important, a lot of people think if you know just one force, you're covered. But in my experience, when you're doing card tricks, procedure, this idea that the way we do an effect, the method, affects what people perceive happened, right? There's some ways you have people pick a card where you can say, now you just thought of a card. You've got a card in your mind, where they don't perceive that they touched the card and remembered it. Or then there's other times when you say, now you take the deck. I want you to deal any amount of cards onto the table that you want. You choose. And so it feels totally different to a person. So if you just have one force, not only is it going to be weird, like if you don't have a table, you can't do your favorite force all of a sudden. That's one thing that can happen to you. But assuming that doesn't happen to you, the other problem that you are going to have is that you may have wonderful revelations, because it's the easiest kind of format to make new tricks out of. But it's not going to look like a different trick if they all start with the exact same procedure. So even if you have your favorite force, you're probably going to need 2 or 3 in a show. And you want them to feel different, because now not only did you reveal a card in a different way, every time they see it, it's different and unique and believable.
It's true. It's really true. You need to have variety, because sometimes you want to even be able to do this when it's not a force, Here, why don't you take these and shuffle them and pull one out and give me the rest back, And you have that mixed in with some forces. Now, all of a sudden, all of it's free. All of it is very fair. And that's the memory that they take home, is that he was doing this stuff with the cards and I have no idea how. It all just becomes one big effect when you mix all those methods together. It's a really powerful technique.
Let's check out another force. All right. So we've got another one to watch that I think is really cool. Let's talk about, I hope this works. Tell me if you guys can see the screen.
Got it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right, here we go. Check this out.
So I want you to bring it down on the back of any one of these. Any one of them. The top one, you really want that one? Okay, you can have it. Now look at it, remember that? Is that your mom? Yeah. And, show it to Aunt. You can see it? Okay. Don't let me see it. Don't let me see it. And then put it back on top again. Now I'll go like this so the card goes into the middle of the deck, so I can't peek at it, okay? And now have a seat, sit back down, and I'm going to try and see if I can find out what your card is. Then I'm going to draw a little picture of it that you can have as a souvenir, okay? So I'm going to just have a... I didn't think this through, did I? The card you're thinking of, the Ace of Spades. No, really not. Okay, but it's a nice picture. Oh, thank you very much, art lovers. This is actually not the Ace of Spades. This is the front of the pack of cards. Here is the rest of the pack in the background. And Jordan, your card is the 14th card from the top. Thank you so much. Yeah, there you go, 5 times. I'll add a couple of lines to my drawing. That gives that picture a feeling of motion, you understand. And like all good artists, I'll sign my work. Because I did promise you could have this, I'm a man of my word. Please notice that nothing slides in or out, up or down, that it's just a picture. Tell everybody what happened, Jordan. They won't believe you, but tell them anyway.
Ah, man. That trick. Don't you remember seeing that the first time and falling in love with that? I saw it first time when Copperfield did it.
Oh, lucky you. That's awesome.
Yeah.
But underneath it all, what's the format of that trick?
Force and
Force
reveal.
reveal.
Force and reveal.
With an absolutely ridiculously stunning reveal, but nonetheless.
And what a force, right? That little girl said, I want the top one.
Oh, I hate
card.
I hate that.
And he still forced it.
No matter, like, you can buy 50% of the card tricks, good card tricks that you'll find in a magic shop are simply revelations for a force. And they'll always require a little something different. And, you know, you could see right there, the circumstances that that Lewis was performing in were pretty unique. It always is, you know, sometimes it's the same, but lots of times there's more variations than you think. So you can access all of those revelations as long as you can access the forces.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. That's right.
Right. That's right.
And that
I used to
forces-
buy so many, you know, like I used to would go to walk around with like 5 different revelations in my pocket. 3.5 of clubs, long card,
Mm-hmm.
52
Still
on
do.
card. They're
The
all
blister.
revelations. What'd you say?
The blister trick. Yeah.
That's good too.
Yep.
It's a great force trick.
And they made a blister trick where you could do it with any card named. You have to carry a thought of blister in your pocket.
Mm-hmm.
So much better with a force.
So much easier. Certainly.
Just
If you don't go out to a gig like you said with like 3 or 4 forces, you know, reveals on you in some way, shape, or form, I mean, you're really
not
selling
ready for
yourself
battle.
short. Yeah, you're not ready for battle. You don't have everything you need, you know.
My very favorite thing watching some like when you're at the Magic Castle and you watch somebody do beautiful magic in their card magic, and they're able to force 2, 3, or 4 cards on spectators. And, you know, often they'll use, very often they'll use different forces for each one. Now I have seen somebody classic force 4 different selections, you know, but ultimately like being able to do it like this and then being able to, hey, you in the back, I just say stop, you know, and here you're right up front. Why don't you just look at one? I mean, I think there's something lovely about that. I really do. So I love that reveal specifically, but I have to say in this next clip, this is another favorite as well. So we're going to look at another type of force, another type of situation that you would use this force in, and this is Gertner right here. All right, here we go. Make sure we can see it. Can you see it?
Got it.
Yes.
Please welcome Paul Gertner.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Allison, would you mind joining me at the table? I have a trick that you've never seen before, and I want you to see it up close.
I would love to.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now, Penn and Teller, it's a pleasure to be here, and I brought something special to show you. It might even look a little familiar, because I brought a deck of marked cards. You see, Allison, Penn and Teller know an awful lot about marked cards. And they would tell you that, of course, most magicians mark the cards on the back. However, I mark them a little differently. I mark them on the edge. Yeah. See, you can see on the edge of the deck, it's like a little pattern, like a barcode pattern. There's information there. You just don't know how to read it. And I'm going to teach you right now.
Oh, thank you.
Now, I actually marked each card with this permanent marker. And that's important because each card has a unique code on it, but it's permanent, and I can't alter it or change it in any manner. Now, if you take a look at the cards, Allison, I want you to confirm for everybody that all the cards are mixed up. In other words, they're not all the red cards here and black cards here.
Yes.
It's a shuffled pack of cards, right?
Yes.
And I'm going to begin by actually having you select a card.
Okay.
So now this works with any card in the deck. So I want you to choose one at random, so just say stop as I riffle the pack.
Stop.
Okay. Look at the card. Remember the name of the card. Okay. And we'll let Penn and Teller see it. I'm going to place it in the pack. And normally at this point in a card trick, the magician squares up the deck and shuffles the card. Right, guys? Yeah, that's Magic 101. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to give these cards what we call an unshuffle. Now, it's the opposite of a shuffle. In fact, if you take a close look right here, I'm going to show you that you can see it looks like a shuffle. It sounds like a shuffle, but it's actually an unshuffle. And if you watch the marks on the edge of the deck, you'll see it starting to read unshuffled 4 times on the side of the pack. See? Because I've actually unshuffled these cards into 4 different groups. Hearts, clubs, spades, and diamonds, the 4 suits in the deck. Yeah. But if I give the cards another unshuffle, just like this, and you can see when I give the cards an unshuffle, it looks like a shuffle, it sounds like a shuffle, but it's not. That's an unshuffle. And in fact, take a look, it's now starting to read unshuffled 2 times on the side of it. Because I've now separated all the high cards from all the low cards. Yeah. But it gets even more interesting if I give the cards one more unshuffle. And if I do it, I want you to stare at the edge of the deck and see if you can tell the moment that these cards become unshuffled. Oh, but Allison, if it says unshuffled, I have to prove it. Remember in the beginning I showed you they were all mixed up? Take a look at them now, because from the ace through the king of hearts, of clubs, of diamonds, of spades, it's a completely unshuffled deck of cards. Thank you. Thank you. Now, oh, wait. There's one minor detail. In the beginning, you selected a card.
Yeah.
And it's somewhere here in this unshuffled deck. Now, I could look for your card face up, but they're all in sequence. Perfect order. That wouldn't be too difficult to find, and besides, it probably wouldn't fool Penn and Teller. But if I found your card face down, it would be a little more impressive. For the first time, tell me and everyone else, what was the name of your card?
The King of Spades.
If I give the cards one more unshuffle, and if I rearrange almost every card in the pack, except for the top and bottom cards, I think I can hit it. And I did. There it is, your King of Spades. Thank you. Thank you. Oh. Penn and Teller.
Yes.
Penn, I think it's pretty clear at this point. I can find any card in this deck I want to find. And I can also put these cards in almost any order I want them. Look, if I give them one more unshuffle, take a look at now. The cards have been separated, all the red cards and all the black cards. So there's really only one final question to answer, and that is, did I fool Penn and Teller? Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good trick, huh?
Oh, that's really good.
You gotta love that one.
And by the way, he fooled them.
He did.
He did, yeah. And Penn Jillette worked on the trick. He bought the book and started to learn unshuffled. And he still, still had to give it to him.
So for some reason, I thought there was a version of that Paul Harris put on the market, or something. Has that always been a Gertner trick?
That's the most popular version of that trick. There's a couple other people that have played with ink and using Pharaoh shuffles and the sequence coming together in different ways to reveal things, but that's the most popular one. And really, that's the best trick that uses that principle. All the other ones are sort of like lukewarm, kind of okay FX,
That's the one.
That's a showpiece. That's a real showpiece.
What I found great about that though was that particular force too. It's so conditional, like that trick. Things have to be exactly right, and so therefore there's really only one, maybe two particular kinds of forces you could use in that effect.
Right.
But you can't really risk it too much, so it's real tight. You got to keep it tight.
Did you notice that it was the Vernon version of that riffle? It's pretty great. It's the only time I've ever seen someone use it on television. It's really amazing because it's the best version of that force. It's really something. And normally when Paul does this trick, he does a dribble force. But you can see on TV, Penn and Teller, a little bit nervous. I'm going surefire. I'm not going to miss. There's no way. So that's why he chose that force, right?
Right. But see, what Adam said is exactly right. That's an excellent reason why you got to have a bunch, because you're in this situation here and you got to have something that works in this circumstance, Yeah.
But also, when you get to the root of what makes an effect play, you find that a lot of these tricks don't require, the first thing we always think when we see a great card revelation is, well, what if I could make it a named card? What if it could be any card? And it's always one of the easy sort of traps we fall down. And what you often find is that it's so far away from where the power in the trick is. Like that trick, you don't start thinking halfway through it, this is impossible unless he made me take a card. You think this is impossible. Like it doesn't matter if he handed me the card. I don't have any idea how any of this is happening.
Yeah, by the time you get to that card revelation, it's too late. You're already in the woods. It doesn't make any difference. If the card was forced, what difference would that have with anything that's happening here?
Yeah, it's not going to give you it's not going to give you a path.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like if that force wasn't a great force, like if you were like, look, I'm going to cut the deck wherever I want, and that's going to be your card. Like that's a force, but it's a bad force. Okay. And so it wouldn't work. Like people would recognize that and remember, well, I didn't really have a choice. So at least your force has to have some mystique to it. It has to have some technique. It has to be a hidden thing. And you're right. I mean, they're not going to remember which one you use as long as you pick the right one. And as long as it's good enough, it's got to be a pretty good force.
And if you have a strong enough effect, it obscures everything else, right? I think that's the lesson that Paul's given us here, is that if that effect is strong enough, like they forget they took a card. By the time it's time to reveal the card, they're so wrapped up in everything that's happening. They're like, oh, right, and I picked the card. Okay, I believe you.
Yeah.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
Yeah, it's really interesting to look at the different ways. I mean, and of course we really were just looking at television shows. We were really just looking people that appeared on TV. Oh, well, there was one stage act in there, but it's interesting because when you're appearing on television and you're gonna probably use a tighter, you may decide to use a tighter force regimen than you normally would, and when you're on stage, it can be a little bit looser sometimes. And when you're David Copperfield, you can pretty much do whatever you want. I mean, he does. I do think, though, that I hope maybe we have time to watch this last clip. Do you guys think we do? Yeah? Because we've got some Doc Eason here, and if we're talking about, a guy who's a master of making people pick the cards that he wants, he is one of the guys. So why don't we check out this last clip by Doc Eason? And I believe he's performing at the bar here, right?
Yeah, this is the way he opens when he works behind the bar. Not in any of the videos that you've seen, but when he actually is working for people and it's just a work night, this is the way he opens the show.
Okay, here we go. Tell me if you can see it. Can you see it?
Yes, all good.
I'm going to do a little thing here for Mia and for Alicia. And I've been doing this trick in this bar, as I said, for 26 years. And the most often heard comment when I finish doing what I'm about to do for you guys right now, I hear them talking afterwards. They say to themselves, oh man, I wish I had watched a little closer. With that in mind, let's proceed, shall we? All right. Alicia, do me a favor. Reach in, take out any card you like.
Good choice.
Sometime tonight would be good. I hate to go to the mall with this money. Right, okay. Snag one, honey, for God's sake. This is a boring card. There you go. Jesus. Eating up some tape here, aren't we here? All right, okay. And Mia, if you would just, anyone like it. Okay. Now, you don't have to get too cranked up about showing them around. I'm going to show the cards around to the camera. And you guys, yeah, if you would do, would you drop your card there for me? This is Mia's card. I'm showing it over here, but I notice I'm turning my head. And I do that purposely because if you look right behind Eric, there's a huge mirror right behind him, okay? Later when you get home, you go, oh, that's how I did it, the mirror. That's not how I do it. Drop yours in here, Alicia. This is Alicia's card. Alicia's card. All right, now, it's going to be my job to try and find these cards. That's the way these things usually work, right? You guys take them out, I try and find them. I got to check sometimes the procedures different. A lot of folks are in from out of town. Now, since Alicia put her card in first, we're going to attempt to get her card first, then we'll get your card. Mia, don't feel left out. I'll get you this. Alicia, if I've done this correctly, Lord, hopefully I have. Yes, I love it when a plan comes together, don't you? Jack of diamonds, Alicia, one down, one to go. Mia, I'm going to find yours by the fancy flying swivel cup. The cards fly like little birds around a nest. And believe it or not, your card, right here on top, the ace of hearts. Ta-da!
That's wrong.
Did I mess it up?
Yeah.
Was I close?
Very.
Oh, I switched them?
Yeah.
We can fix this. Mia, Alicia, if you guys just switch places, we're going to swap, see if you can make it. Stay right where you are. I'll do it the hard way. You ready?
did not.
I don't want to touch it. You turn on.
Get out.
That's his opener, huh?
It keeps going. He takes it a step further. It's really good, man.
That's a strong. Did you hear her say, maybe you could just switch them? Like she even thought of it. That's really great.
Right. Do you have a ham sandwich? I'm hungry.
That's a good one. All right. I tell you, a lot of times, yeah, magicians do a trick like that. And I hear a lot of you thinking in your mind, you're thinking, wait a minute, do that again. Most of the time, they won't do it again, Terrell. But tonight, I like this crowd. I'll do it again. That you must put a sock in that guy in the end there? All right. Yeah, no problem, big guy. It's just, you know, you're showing up on film, not even being in the room here. All right, okay. Carol, we'll do it with Carol this time. Carol, reach in, take out a card. Anyone's all right, just pick one. I'm sorry, the cards got to mind their own today. Reach in, Carol. I'm a card about this. Hit the one you want, goddammit. Take it. Eric, drop in, reach in, take one out there.
Another cherry Coke, sir?
Yes, thank you. On the rocks.
Big night out for you.
Oh, it's a big night out for you. All right, okay. Somebody's got to be awake for the kids tonight. It's obvious Alicia's not. All right.
That's right.
Watch it.
I know, hey. All right. Like once again, in the interest of time, safety, and economy of motion, I'm going to show the cards around. Drop your card. What do you like doing there, Carol? Perfect. Here, do it this way. Get a little harder. Okay. This is Carol's card. Stick it out. Carol's card. Carol's card. Carol's card. Okay. Carol's card. All right. And Eric, you still there?
Yep.
Drop yours in there for me, pal. Beautiful. This is Eric's card. Eric's card. Eric's card. All right. Once again, my job is to try and find these cards. I know it's a bizarre occupation for a grown man, father of three, but this is how I make my living. Call this a living tonight? I'll tell you later. No, I have 3 kids, one of each. A blonde, a brunette, and a redhead. Where are you going? I have 2 lovely boys, a little girl, Katie Rose. 2 are adopted, in fact, and as soon as we find a home for the 3rd one, I get my magic ring back. Yeah, my ex-wife hates that joke. Who cares? All right, now, I'm going to try and find Carol's card first, then I'm going to get Eric's card. Okay, Eric? All right. Eric, I'm going to get your card first, Carol. How we do with that 5 o'clock? Yes, all right. 1 down, 1 to go. Eric, here we go, buddy. Check it out. 10 o'clock. No. Don't make a big deal about it. 3 of spades. Sometimes I get lucky. Well, not recently, but that's a long story. All right, we're going to find Eric's card by that fancy cut. It worked before, and hopefully it'll work again, just like that. Check it out. I've done it right, Eric, right here on top. Check it out. The 5 of oh, wait a minute. That was your card. Oh, wait a second. I think we can fix this. If that's your card, I'm guessing, Eric, that that's your card. Reach over there and turn that over. Is that your card there?
Whew, man. You know, I forgot how much fun it is to watch him work behind the bar. Aaron, he was really in his element there, huh?
Yeah. When Doc had a Doc crowd in Aspen, there's nothing like it. You know, there's always he always had his heads. You know.
Yeah, I love when he tells the bartender, "Hey, tell that guy on the end to put a sock in it."
put a sock in that guy.
I love that.
So that was interesting because that, you know, it looked to me like the forces were so early in that, like I barely even remembered them. But
it's only so it could do that first stage, to do that proper 2-card transposition, right? And then the other one looks enough like it that it seems like it's the same effect he's repeating, but he does different procedure and it strengthens that first one. First one strengthens the second one. Great little routine. I really, really am enamored with this. I think I might start playing with this sequence because it's really, really cool, I think.